Welcome back to the OverseerPC, RTX 3060 or the RX 6600 XT. I have had a lot of questions from you guys on which card you should get. Would it be practical to go for the green themes RTX 3060 or would it be better to go for the red themes RX 6600 XT? A brief of a background, I own both cards. Neither of the cards that I've owned were supplied to me. I've actually bought them with my own money. And I've used both of these cards as a daily driver. And if you're familiar with our channel here at OverseerPC, I test these cards until I'm done with all my tests before I move on. This means I could be stuck with this card for a month. I use this for gaming, I use this when I'm editing videos. So basically my use case lasts for a few weeks or sometimes over a month rather than a few days. So I'm actually a user of these cards. Now as we carry on, I'll break down our discussion into segments. Okay, let's start off with raw performance. In raw performance, the RX 6600 XT beats the RTX 3060 hands down. You can look at different benchmarks from Hardware Unboxed, Gamers Nexus, all the other tech tubers out there. RX 6600 XT is better in terms of rasterization performance. And you can see from our test that I personally like the performance of the RX 6600 XT when I'm gaming. It's actually better and I could feel the difference. And even if we push the card to 1440p, it actually is a better experience compared to the RTX 3060 and raw performance. Without a doubt, Nvidia's NVENC is an amazing technology. I really love NVENC because of that almost lossless experience. But in saying that, AMD's encoder is not bad. It's actually decent and not superior, but decent. People say that Nvidia's encoder is better, and that is correct at lower bit rates. However, Tech Team GB did a test and actually showed that at higher bit rates it really doesn't matter which one you go for. But if you're a full-time streamer, like you solely depend on streaming for income, definitely go for the RTX 3060 if you're that, budget streamer. However, if you're someone like me who don't regularly stream or just stream for fun, it doesn't really matter which card you choose. NVENC will be nice to have, but it's not essential if you fall under this category, which I assume a lot of you guys will be. Let's talk about VRAM. So the RTX 3060 has 12GB. The RX 6600 XT only has 8GB. This doesn't really matter. I mean, the RTX 3060 has 12GB of VRAM, but at 4K resolutions, or even at some 1440p gaming, this is pointless because the card is just too slow to even make a difference. The 12GB is a marketing strategy by Nvidia, as it was afraid when AMD planned on releasing the RX 6700 XT to have 12GB of VRAM, so they copied the 12GB as a marketing strategy. And as I've said, it doesn't really matter in gaming unless if you're using this for productivity. So don't get that VRAM amount fool you. And with these cards, I don't really expect that you guys play at 4K. Yeah, so just disregard that VRAM argument if you're comparing these cards. Now, a lot of people talk about DLSS and how amazing this technology is. Now, honestly, I don't play single player games. I really don't. I mainly play competitive shooters. So I'm taking this from a guy who mainly plays competitive games. Now, I've used DLSS previously in Fortnite and Warzone, and my experience was a bit meh. In Fortnite, it doesn't really add anything of value. It just made everything blurry and didn't add really FPS. Mainly because we were playing on low settings and we were more of a CPU bound and actually a GPU limited. I mean, you can use this if you scale up at 1440p. In Warzone, I just didn't like DLSS because it was making the images more funny looking. There was a little bit of jittering all over the place. I ended up not using DLSS with my RTX 3060. With regards to DLSS having more support than FSR, well, that's true, but FSR is catching up. If you see the latest Call of Duty Vanguard, their open beta at this stage, it's already supporting FSR. So more and more games are going for that. I mean, I might use DLSS on Warzone if I'm gaming at 1440p. However, with the RX 6600 XT, it may have FSR anyway. And the 1440p experience with Warzone on RX 6600 XT is actually much more superior compared to the RTX 3060. For RTX, I don't play single player games, and I don't enable RTX on the games that I play, which are competitive shooters. Like, why would I handicap myself in Fortnite or Warzone? So if you're playing single player games, the RTX 3060 would give better performance in ray tracing, but you'd still have a very bad FPS even it's with DLSS anyways. It's just not powerful enough. I mean, if it's like the RTX 3070, yes, definitely, but with RTX 3060, there's a huge difference and it's not really a fast card. So yeah, there's that. Let's talk about Nvidia Reflex. Now, I don't have an LDAP. That's Nvidia's tool to measure input lag. Nvidia Reflex is indeed an amazing technology. It will give you that a little bit of advantage for reducing all that input lag. Now, this is really important if you're playing competitively. However, if we are just deciding between the RTX 3060 and the RX 6600 XT, if I was given, those choices, I would still pick the RX 6600 XT. I would pick the faster card rather than a slower card with Reflex. Now, I know a lot of people will say they have had a lot of issues with AMD drivers, but most of these people will have had these experience like years ago. They probably don't have the latest cards from both AMD and Nvidia, and even if they had Nvidia, they might not have experience with AMD. And let me get this straight. I never had issues with AMD drivers this generation. It was actually a very smooth experience for me. I actually even like the look and feel of AMD's user interface. Nvidia, however, this time around did give me some issues. I think this is because their RTX 3000 is the first generation of this architecture. I've had a few crashes, minor crashes, and mostly when I'm running overlays like the MSI Afterburner. And I've also had occasions wherein Shadowplay was recording the wrong monitor. Pretty minor things, but currently both drivers are okay for me. I have no issues. So yeah. If you're a professional who use a lot of productivity apps, just get Nvidia. I'm not a fanboy, but Nvidia has had their presence in the productivity space for a long time. Mainly because AMD was non-existent and high-end for a very long time. And because of this, Nvidia was able to massively expand their ecosystem and productivity, and programs are now designed mostly to take advantage of CUDA. So I use Premiere and Photoshop for this channel. I use them a lot. I do a little bit of productivity, and the latest RTX card do offer a better experience for me when I'm editing. It's a bit faster, but it doesn't mean that my AMD experience is terrible. It's still okay. In most situations, it's my CPU that's actually just pulling me down than my GPU because I only have 6 cores. So yeah, if you're a professional, definitely get the RTX one. If you're just someone like me who does a little bit of productivity here and there and time is not really a big issue, then it doesn't matter. In terms of power, these cards are very efficient. They only require one 8-pin power connector on most entry model designs. I think the RX 6600 XT is a little bit better in terms of power efficiency, but it's not really that much of a difference anyway if you've got both of these guys to compare with. If you're into mining, yes, unfortunately they're both efficient as well. So yeah, there's that. Now let's talk about pricing. Now, MSRP doesn't mean anything nowadays. In the real world, things are different. In my region, the RTX 3060 is generally more expensive than the RX 6600 XT. Now, even if you look at Newegg, it's exactly the same. The RTX 3060, the weaker card, is much more expensive than the RX 6600 XT. This is mostly because there is a higher demand for RTX cards. I personally blame the mindshare. Most gamers naturally think that the RTX cards are faster than the alternative. However, we know in this case it is not right. I mean, the RX 6600 XT is faster than the RTX 3060. So yeah. One thing that I forgot to mention is that the RX 6600 XT works on a PCIe 4.0 at 8 lanes. So if your motherboard doesn't support PCIe 4.0, I would recommend that you pick up the RTX 3060. It's because you won't be able to take full advantage of the RX 6600 XT at PCIe 4.0, and it's only running at 8 lanes. So there's that. At the end of the day, picking between the RTX 3060 and RX 6600 XT would entirely depend on your use case. If you're a full-time streamer or planning to be one, you're a full-time professional who do a lot of productivity tasks and every second counts for you, get the RTX 3060. The NVENC and CUDA would be amazing for your workflow. If you're just a gamer who prefers that raw rasterization performance bump and may do a little bit of streaming here and there, get the RX 6600 XT. You can feel the FPS difference between both cards, and in most cases, the RX 6600 XT is cheaper on most markets. Personally, I'd pick the RX 6600 XT as well. I spend more time gaming rather than doing productivity tasks, and because I like the game competitively, I ultimately would prefer that raw performance bump that the RX 6600 XT brings. Now, even though I do some Premiere or Photoshop here and there, these are just very minor things for me. I could live with slightly slower performance on these things, but I couldn't live with slower in-game performance. So, what do you think? Would you go RTX 3060 or RX 6600 XT? Let me know of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.